You're listening to the Pasco Podcast with Mike Carballa. Welcome to Season 3 of Pasco Podcast, a series about leadership and public service. We'd like to thank our sponsors, the nearly 600,000 people of Pasco County, as represented by the Board of County Commissioners. It's through their trust and empowerment of our workforce and leadership team that we're able to bring you this podcast. This podcast is designed to help public servants build leadership skills and leverage them for success by sharing the experiences of our peers.
Hi, I'm Mike Carballa, and welcome to our 26th episode of Pasco Podcast. Joining us today from our utilities team, our Operations and Maintenance Director, Jason Mickel, and Water Quality Operations Manager, Kevin Jenkins. Gentlemen, welcome today. How are you all doing today?
Great. Excited to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Great. So why don't you guys, Jason, why don't we start? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to Pasco County?
Well, Jason Mickel, Operations Maintenance, Utilities Director. If you don't know, I'm from Jersey. Grew up in New Jersey. Moved to Florida, Tampa area in early 90s. Went to school here in USF. Got my master's degree in environmental management. Worked for lots of different organizations, DEP, Hillsborough County. Most of my career spent at SwiftMud. And then I had the great fortune to come to Pasco County in 2018 as the assistant director to Rob Marin in utilities. So Rob moved on to another position, and I was able to get the position of director. So that's how my road here.
Fantastic. KJ, how about you?
So my name's Kevin Jenkins, and from a small town called Wildwood, Florida, probably about 60 miles north of here or so.
I think we see an exit sign on 75 up there.
We got one exit. And I came to Tampa right after high school. I graduated from USF, my undergrad in environmental science. And I've kind of been on this science track for the last 9 years or so. I worked in the lab with Tampa Bay Water at their regional facility. And then I spent several years at Pinellas County working with their water services and water quality team there. And then fortunately, I was blessed with an opportunity to come work for Pasco, which I was able to maneuver through a few ranks here. And here I am today as the water operations and water quality manager.
Well, you're making a difference. So we thank you for that. Jason, so you were an assistant director here, moved into a director position. Talk to us a little bit about your leadership philosophy. The operations and maintenance department is probably one of the largest ones in the county, and there's a lot going on every day. So talk to us a little bit about your philosophy of leadership.
Well, I've learned I've had great leaders that I've been lucky enough to be around in my life. I've also had some really bad leaders to be lucky enough to be around as well. When you're a young person making your way in an organization, sometimes those lessons from bad leaders are more valuable. But luckily here at Pasco, I got to work with Rob, and Rob had a lot of great things to teach. One being, I wear the county polo. I wear this every day. It's kind of my thing. If you haven't noticed, I just think it's important to dress the part. And then I think being authentic is really important. And I try to be myself, but work on myself, every day. Try to get a little bit better version of myself. So hopefully that happens. But I'm going to try not to use any buzzwords, try to stay away from that. But I think being a transformational type of leader is real important. And what I mean by that is you got to take the time to invest in people that are within your group, within your organization. If you don't spend as much possible time as you can investing in them, they're gonna move on, you're gonna lose them, or they're gonna not have an interest in the work that they're doing. So I like to push people a little bit out of their comfort zone. So if I can make someone give a presentation when they hate giving a presentation, I'm going to be the person that's going to try to do that. I just think it's important for people to not be complacent and to kind of push themselves a little bit.
That's fantastic. And I like what you say about authenticity, right? We talk sometimes about bringing our whole selves to work and being real. And as part of people, purpose, and performance, I think that's making that connection with people is a good thing. It makes us vulnerable as leaders, but at the same time, I think being authentic, being genuine really helps you connect. And I think ultimately leads to greater respect. KJ, what do you think?
What comes to mind for me for leadership philosophy is lead by example. I'm a huge advocate of that. I feel like I wouldn't expect anybody that worked with me or beneath me to do anything that I wouldn't do for myself. I've always been the get it done mindset. Ever since a little kid, I was probably 9 years old cutting lawns in my neighborhood. I remember at 14, I worked in the pea field so I can have some summer money for $15 a day for 8 hours. And honestly, when I came into the workforce and I realized how little effort it takes to actually be a good employee compared to the things that I used to do as a kid, I felt like there's no way that I could fail at something like this. So I definitely believe in leading by example and setting the tone. And to segue from that or into the next thing is, like he said, buzzwords. There's a something that they call like a co-creator. And basically what that means is that you set a vision or a goal that you want to be accomplished by your team. But then you set up little tasks and exercises for your team to actually accomplish those tasks, and you let them do it with their skill set. And I'm really big in empowering people. Jason, I know, is huge in empowering people. I'm one of those people, and I'm very fortunate for it. And it's really important to have a good leader, such as Jason, that is helped molding my career as it's in its young stages. Fantastic. So Kevin, when did you realize that you wanted to lead people? So it's one of the things that I think has just come natural. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure everybody at this table can agree. I don't think leadership is a thing that's forced upon people. It's one of those things that I kind of consider the it factor. Either you got it or you don't. And I'm also okay with everyone not wanting to be in some type of leadership capacity. One of the things that I discussed with several people in the past is you don't need a team full of Kobe Bryants or LeBron James. But what's important is that we all work hard towards what we consider success. And I remember as a kid, if there was a group project in school, I would always step up to be the leader of that project. I remember any sports team, I would always step up to try to be team captain. I was a Boy Scout for 8 years. I was the pack leader then. And what I realized is that mindset and that progression just continued throughout my life. Very cool. Very, very cool. How about you, Jason? Same question.
Well, now you know why. My special guest is KJ, right? We're lucky to have some great young leaders, in our group, and I'm very happy and honored that he's here with us, working at Pasco County. For me, it was, probably as early as I can remember, maybe 7, 8 years old, playing football on the concrete parking lot or asphalt parking lot. Tackle, by the way, it is New Jersey. It is New Jersey, by the way. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, hey, I can organize this a little bit better than what we're doing right now. And I could start sending guys on little patterns and routes and try to get them the ball. Now, no one really liked it. No one listened to me. But at the same time, I was trying, and I just thought there was a better way to do it. And I would say this, why we're talking about this, I think people are born leaders. I think that's a thing, right? You are born with that talent, that gift to want to lead people. Not everybody, like KJ said, not everybody has to do it. There's plenty of people you need behind a desk working on a spreadsheet all day. We need those people that do that. You need people, and that are happy just being in the field working all day. They don't have to be, a people leader, right? But I would say, just to my observations to this point in my life, I think one thing that's not said sometimes is that you could also become a bad leader. I think some people may have been good at some point in their life, and through complacency and not practicing and not working on it, they become bad leaders. And I've seen it happen. I've seen where people have made a turn. And I got to be honest, I think sometimes in my own head, I sometimes have to fight, the fact of, hey, I got to keep getting better. I got to keep working. I got to keep, practicing this quality about myself to become better at it. Because if you don't do that, you could let it go. I think that's not something that's just awarded to you forever. Yeah,
Covey talks always about sharpening the saw, and even in leadership circles, you may think that you've got this down, right? I know how to empower people. I know how to do X, Y, Z. But if you don't draw that back and have that humility to kind of say, you know what, there's always something extra I can learn. You're right. You can slip. And versus growing, and as leaders you have to grow. So Jason, as you grew up through the years from playing tackle football in the parking lot, and no one listening to you, who did any one person, thing, event have any impact or influence on your life in becoming a leader on your journey?
Oh, absolutely. My family first, right? And my family, I would specifically say that because they're a bunch of hardworking, blue collar, people who just knew what it took to get to, be successful. And their path forward was hard work, right? That was my mom today, to this day, still can outwork most people at 80, right? So that's just the way they are as a family. But I would say that I mentioned earlier, I had a lot of great bosses that I've worked for. From, I mentioned them before, Sam Zamani, at DEP, great guy, But specifically, I'd say I learned from him. You have to give back. You have to give back to your community. I think that's something he was big on. He was quiet about that, but it's something that he taught me. And then I'll jump all the way, here to to Rob and the leaders here and Mike, you and Dan. And I just think that there's always a feeling of humility here, and that Rob was huge on that, and it's something I had to recapture in my career. It's not easy to be, when you're competing with other people and you're going for jobs and you're trying to be the smartest one in the room, even though as we all know, you don't need to be. I think you got to recalibrate and remember that being humble is one of the most important qualities you can have as a leader. So when you're around people like Rob, when you're and Mike, yourself, I think you're reminded that you have to be, you have to always focus back on being humble.
Yeah, we're always on. Kevin, same question. Who, in terms of leadership, has had the biggest influence on your life?
Yeah, so funny enough, very similar to Jason, I can't attribute the success to one person. I feel like throughout life, we make enough encounters with people to be affected by several along the way. I wish I had that superhero or celebrity or something that I could just say I aspired to be.
Right.
But that's not it for me. There are several people, former bosses, family, of course. One story that kind of sticks out to me was my first job. I actually worked at a little amusement park. And there was a time where I had a walkie-talkie and we had the general manager, and I called him and I said, hey, and I won't say his name, but I say, hey, the window is broken. And he goes, all right, thanks for letting me know. And then later that day, he came up to me and said, hey, I fixed the window, but did you try to fix it? And I was like, no, I just thought to tell you that something was wrong with it. But that lesson has always taught me that before I complain about something or try to acknowledge an issue, put forth effort first to try to fix that issue. And that's kind of stuck with me. And till this day, I harp on that with people that I work with and people that work for me and up and coming leaders. So.
Yeah, we used to joke in utilities about delegating up, oftentimes, but it's about being a problem solver, right? It's about coming up with solutions, and there's something empowering and probably satisfying about that if you're kind of dealing with your own issues, that really only helps to really further the case for empowerment and allowing our people to, quite honestly, solve the issues that we come up with. And then we as leaders, of course, we we can break down barriers, to help them solve those issues. And that's really what our jobs are as servant leaders. That's a fantastic lesson. Any other lessons about leadership that you've learned over the course of your career? Successes, challenges you've had?
Yeah. So just being younger in the career, granted, I am younger age-wise, but I've been on this science track in water quality for about 9 years now. So I consider myself pretty seasoned in my profession. But some of the successes that come with it is pretty self-explanatory. But the challenges is more so what I like to get to. And one is that leadership doesn't have a timeline in my experiences.
What do you mean by that?
So even when I first entered the profession, I know that I wanted to be of impact to whatever job that I was working. And I think what discourages a lot of younger people is that they don't feel as if they are mature or ready yet to take on certain roles and responsibility. And I was a victim of that myself. I feel like I held myself back from a lot of opportunities just because I self-proclaimed that I wasn't ready. Just because of people that I was surrounded with, people that may have had higher education, people that may have been doing the job longer. It just kind of discouraged me from what I wanted to accomplish. And as I started progressing through the years, I realized I could have done this 5 years ago. I could have went for these opportunities and not held back from that job interview or not updated my resume or thought I was as good as the next guy that's been here for 15 years. So
that's fantastic. Usually you look and see folks that want to try to ascend almost too fast sometimes, versus the other way around. So I like that story about not letting yourself hold yourself back, if you will. And that's fantastic. I mean, boy, what a great lesson to learn, at this point. Jason, how about you? Any successes, challenges when it comes to leadership stories, perhaps, that you'd like to share?
Yeah, first I agree with KJ. I remember when I turned 30, then I felt like, all right, now I can start to try to work my way into some of these, supervisor, manager roles. But reflecting back on that, I realized that, a lot of the projects I was working on, I was put in a leadership role by someone who trusted me to be in that role, to run a team, to run a project, just to get something from A to Z. I was trusted to take that whole thing through. I remember an old colleague / boss of mine who's still a really good friend, Ken Hurd. He used to always tell me, there's value in finish. And he would say in his Kentucky accent, but like he said it in a way that it really resonated with me, that get the job done. If I'm giving you a task to do, I'm trusting you with getting it done. There's a lot of value in seeing that thing through the finish line. And that's always stuck with me through my career, that, you really need to, take the time. If you start the project, don't let it sit there. Make sure you work on getting it through and getting it done. But I'd like to say though, here currently in utilities, I think one of the most valuable lessons anybody in a manager position, supervisor, director, whatever position you're in, if you're in leadership position here in utilities, you have to take care of the people, the frontline workers, the guys and girls that do the work on our front lines. They're the ones you need to respect, treat with dignity, and always fight for them every single day. If anybody knows me, I'm certainly not perfect, but I think that what I spend a lot of my time doing is trying to get them a little bit more. And I think that for me has been a really big lesson here to, focus on the people. I had a boss a long time ago. His name was Ed Tapia. He was at Hillsborough County. He was a Cuban immigrant, came here, made his way in this country as an engineer, and then ultimately a manager at Hillsborough County. And he always used to say to me, take care of your people and they'll take care of you. Don't take care of your people and they'll take care of you. That's what he used to say to me all the time. And at first I didn't know what the heck he was talking about, but then I learned over time that, it's on me to take care of people. So that would be my, success lesson.
Yeah, no, I think those are fantastic lessons. And what you say too about follow through is important to us as leaders as well, right? We can get in there, squawk, talk a big game, but if we don't follow through and see things to the finish, that's a real problem. We lose credibility. And again, that's part of taking care of your people, as you point out. So we talked earlier about becoming a bad leader. Right. So it's important for leaders to sharpen the saw and continue to try to not lose sight and become better leaders. How do you personally continue to build your leadership skills?
Practice.
All right. Practice.
You got to practice. And look, I just went, this kind of relates back to what we talked about before. But I went to a public meeting the other day, and it was a group of retired folks. And they were really mad about something, and we had an opportunity to speak to them, and they gave it to me. They really did. They took it to me. So, but it was one of those things where I walked into that meeting thinking, hey, no one can handle this better than me. I'm going to go in there and charm them all and win them over, and maybe I didn't spend as much time preparing myself and, getting ready for the reality of what that meeting was going to end up as.
Right.
And then going in there and taking that abuse, so to speak. I walked out of there better. I walked out of there thinking, hey, next time I walk into a meeting like that, I'm going to be a little bit more prepared, a little bit more armed. It's just like giving a presentation. If you go to the board or, go to a professional conference and, you put together a presentation that you don't prepare for and you don't practice and you're not on top of your game, it's going to show. And I think that's just like leadership. If you're not preparing, if you're not understanding what your guys are doing out in the field, if it's just, I'm uninterested, I got my other problems to worry about, that shows. Mm-hmm. You got to, in my opinion, you got to dive in a little bit.
You do.
You got to understand.
And as they say, practice makes perfect. And, you've just, you've got to grind through that sometimes. And there is no teacher like experience. So, Kevin, same question to you. What do you do to sharpen the saw?
Yeah, so I can stem off of his comments a little bit. One of the things that work really well for me is I don't have to go through the mistakes to learn from it. I can actually adhere a lot from listening to someone else's mistakes. Mm-hmm. So that's my first time hearing that story from him. And I can guarantee you I would never go into a meeting anticipating that I can hit him with the charm. And that's kind of been a key to my success is I've always been able to learn a lot from people without having to really face a lot of adversity myself. But to more specifically answer your question on what works for me is to be a better leader, I would always, or to keep improving my leadership skills, is I would keep improving my listening skills. I don't think that you can continue to advance if your ears are closed. Mm-hmm. And I think, as you said, nothing fine-tunes leadership more than hearing or experiencing different things. And if your ears are closed and your eyes are closed, you can't hear or see these different things. So I just keep working on being a better listener and making sure whether I agree with you or disagree with you, I think either way will mold me into a better leader. Right.
So let me ask Jason this, because you're no spring chicken here.
We were just talking about that.
How do you identify and raise, we talk about deepening the bench, right? And so as people get promoted or people move on and we shift in the organization, we've got to continually nourish that next line. How do you identify and raise the next group of leaders, specifically within ops?
So by the way, KJ did say I'm a new 50. So I like that. But all right, so great question. I think a couple of things I look for. First and foremost, I've learned a lot of lessons about hiring over my years of being in these type of positions. Right, a lot of times I would get stuck on trying to hire people just like myself. I would identify those qualities that reminded me of myself, and I would hire that person.
It's easier to do that.
It's easier to do that.
Yeah, and then it resonates.
And then I learned, through multiple reasons, that hey, sometimes you don't need yourself. Sometimes you need someone else. And it's also a exercise in humility because, maybe I'm not the right person for the job. Maybe I need to start hiring some smarter people. I think that those were some early lessons for me. But I look for a couple things, and I said I was going to be clicky or cliche or buzzwords, but I think there's kind of
just let them loose, man. They're so easy. They're just so easy.
There's like a 3 C's kind of thing.
Okay.
Right. So I think character, right? Because you really can't teach character. That's who the person is. And then interview day is their best day. Mm-hmm. Right. So what you get that day is, probably most cases going to be the best you get. So make sure that character's there. Competent, you want the right person for the job. And then last is chemistry. And I think that, chemistry for not only me, but for the group. So I don't want to bring someone in who's going to disrupt a good thing that we already have. So I look for that. And then once I have someone in-house, I look for little things like soft skills, or how do you treat the admin staff? How do you, how do you deal with a tough situation and adversity? And one thing that really bugs me too are like silos, data silos, not wanting to share information.
Yeah.
Those are a couple of things that I think I definitely look for. And most importantly, I don't want to babysit somebody. I think we're all professionals, and you need to provide leadership and you need to help people along, but you don't want to babysit somebody.
Yeah.
I look for someone who is a little bit of a self starter and a self finisher.
Gotcha. So once you find them, how do you develop them then? How do you give them those opportunities to, become leaders and know, hey, you know what? I think this individual here could replace me, or I think they're ready to be division chief, or how do you do that?
Two things. Going back to what I said earlier about the transformational leadership, I mean, you got to push people. You got to push them out of their comfort zone. You got to give them opportunities, right? If KJ being as young as he is, being a manager here with us, that's a testament to him first and foremost that he's in this position. But he's a manager at a young age here at Pasco. I think that again that it's an opportunity for him, and he's really shined in the role. But things that he showed along the way were those things I talk about: competence and character and chemistry. But in O&M, we have one of our goals is increased competency. And we really do put our money where our mouth is with increasing competency. We have not only the things that the county offers for people like tuition reimbursement, but we also offer our own incentive program. And it's a well-known incentive program within utilities.
Yep.
But we budget, we promote it, we train you, we pay for you to go to these certifications and licensing classes, and then we incentivize you to get those. And then, to me, it's a triple win, right? It's a win for the employee because they're getting better at what they do. It's a win for, us here in leadership because we're sending out highly qualified people. And then it's a win for our customers because they're getting a highly competent, trained, customer service oriented employee to come to their, house or to their, neighborhood and fix a problem that they may have. So I'm confident in that program that definitely helps our guys not only be better but also want to stay here.
How about you, KJ? I mean, you've got a nice tight knit group there. How do you identify the next you and help them get there?
Typically, and I kind of stated it before, is I don't think leadership should be forced. I tend to let the leader stand out.
Let them emerge,
on their own. And again, I'm not an advocate if someone wants to be really good at their job over running an entire crew. What I'm a big fan of, though, is supporting the career goals of the employee on a unique basis. And anyone who wants to run the utility one day, I'll make sure I give them all of my support and all the resources that they need to achieve that. And anybody who wants to just be a good employee at whatever they're doing, they will get that same energy. Fantastic.
Any tools or wisdom that you guys would like to share with our listeners?
I'll start real quick since I started talking. I'm a big fan of Mike Rowe. Dirty Jobs.
Dirty Jobs. Yeah.
He's been around a long time. He's done a lot of cool stuff. But I got to see him at a conference this year, and it was everything I wanted it to be as far as the speech that he gave. But the message that he gave was very, very consistent with what we do in utilities. But he said something that stuck with me, because whenever you ask someone, hey, what advice do you have for young people? They always say, follow your passion, right? So you hear that all the time, follow your passion. And that's great if your passion is, consistent with making a living, right? So he said, I'm going to challenge you to not follow your passion. I'm going to challenge you to do something that no one else is willing to do. And that find a niche that may be hard, but you could be an expert at it. You could be great at it. And then once you're great at it, be passionate about it and do it. And I feel like that's us. That's utilities. We got a bunch of people that maybe they didn't set out thinking, like, I'm passionate about, working on a pump station. But maybe now they are. Maybe they got the job, they took the job, and they're like, man, this is very rewarding, very, very excellent work that I get to do, and I become an expert in my field at doing this type of work. And a quick story that he told in this regard. He on the set of one of the jobs, he went to a crew that was working on like industrial septic tanks. Then these things would get caked on with a variety of different fun stuff, right, on the inside. And the way you clean them out, you have to go into the tank with scrapers, scrape all the stuff off the walls, and then they kind of back it out, right? So he's in there with the guy, and they're scraping all the stuff off the walls, and he's like looking around thinking, like, he says to the guy, he's like, Bob, whatever his name is, he's like, how'd you end up here? Like, why are you doing this? And the guy said, I didn't want to put up with anybody else's crap. But it was a really good, funny story, and it just was like, yeah, he didn't want to put up with the metaphorical crap. He was okay putting up with the real crap.
With the literal stuff.
The literal stuff, because to him, he had a niche, he had a great business, and he was doing great, rewarding work for himself and his staff that worked for him. And I took that as a great lesson that, if maybe your passion is music, or helping animal shelters or something. You may not be able to do that as a living. Maybe you can. That'd be great if you can. Maybe you could do that on the weekend, but maybe find a niche. Find a niche that other people aren't willing to do.
Fantastic. Same to you, sir.
So, and I was going to interrupt unintentionally because something just popped into my mind from yesterday. So I'm scrolling through LinkedIn, and there was a post that showed up that was just a few words, and this is all that I have to say to answer your question. But it said that you do not have to be at the top of the org chart to be a leader. So if I have to give that message to anybody, I would every day of the year.
I could not agree more. We're all, whether we're in formal leadership positions or informal leadership positions, like you say, leaders emerge. I do think that understanding and realizing that you affect that sphere, whether you're a supervisor or you're just a crew member, even, you can still show leadership and you can still be a leader. And your crew and your teammates are going to respect you and do that. So fantastic. Congratulations, by the way. The Telly Award, I guess that our entire team, you got to be the face, and I know our entire team, including those that put on this podcast here, were integral in that award. But well done on that. So I think you've if leadership doesn't work out for you, KJ, I think you got a career in media. So before we go, guys, I have in my hands some rapid fire questions here. So we'll start with the easy one. Cats or dogs, Jason?
Dogs.
Yeah, I'm with dogs too. That's funny. That's good. Random thought you had at work this week, or having now?
Are there parallel universes?
Ancient aliens.
On that, travel to the past or travel to the future?
Past for sure.
Future.
Interesting.
Always looking forward.
And you?
You got to know where you come from.
Oh, wow. Look at this group. Favorite subject in school?
Science.
Yeah.
Gym.
All right. In that case, give me your favorite onomatopoeia.
Tampa.
Onomatopoeia. Sound.
Science guys.
PEMDAS.
Science guys.
PEMDAS, is that onomatopoeia?
Is that? No. Like buzz. It's a word. It's a word that makes a sound.
Tampa Lightning. Tampa, that's one.
It's not an onomatopoeia. All right, we're moving on. We got science guys here. All right, we got to get some arts people in here. Do you speak more than one language?
No.
And first job?
Amusement park.
Paperboy.
Had a paper route.
Yep.
Very good. Well, listen, appreciate you guys being here. You guys did a fantastic job, and we wish you all the best in your day-to-day work as leaders here in the organization. And special thanks to our media relations team who make this effort possible. So thank you for joining us today on this episode of Pasco Podcast. I'm Mike Carballa, and we'll see you next time.
For more information on Pasco County government, please visit mypasco.net and check us out on Facebook and Twitter.